Hi, welcome to Long Lost Friends. I'm Elizabeth Eve King.
And I'm Andrea Goyan. Elizabeth and I used to do improv comedy together back when we were 19 and lost touch.
A few years ago, we discovered each other and found out we're both painters,
Performers,
animal lovers,
and Pilates teachers.
and naturalists.
Elizabeth, I'm not a naturalist. I mean, I love nature, but
That counts. What's important is
we're all
long lost
friends.
friends.
And we're both award-winning fiction writers.
After one of my stories appeared on MetaStellar, we started this show.
MetaStellar, for those of you who don't know, is an online fiction magazine. We publish original horror, science fiction, fantasy. There's a link below to check us out.
Today, we are so excited to be joined by Craig Sim Webb. Craig is a dream analyst, best-selling author, and researcher. He's also widely traveled educator, musical artist, inventor, and award-winning filmmaker. He's part of a pioneering research team at Stanford. His book, The Dream Behind the Music, reveals little-known dreams that inspired tremendous success for over 100 top artists and highlights principles and techniques anyone can use to harvest their own dreams for significant breakthroughs. You can find it at The Dreams Behind the Music. Link below. Thanks
Welcome,
and
Craig.
welcome.
Yeah, we'd love
Thank
before we
you.
start talking about all the good stuff. Well, this is a good stuff. Can you show us any pets?
I can maybe a little later show you my actual pet, but I can certainly tell you about them. So I can speak about my pets here. I have one pet that's a little unusual because we're talking about dreams. I actually see my childhood dog. I called him Roofy. His official name was Tinker from my parents. But I often see him in my dreams. He's a really good sign that I'm connecting with my playful, natural self who likes to go outdoors, a dog. And when he's not well kept, needs to go out or looking disheveled, that's a good sign I haven't played enough or gone outside or kept in shape, I guess. So it's a little subtle, but a dream pet. And Rafi was actually there in my very first lucid dream. That was what triggered me becoming conscious in a dream. So an interesting little connection for my dream pet.
How did you become conscious well, first of all, before you tell us your own personal, unless you want to incorporate it, tell us exactly what is lucid dreaming?
Okay, so lucid dreaming. By the way, a lot of people use that phrase for somewhat different things or different phrases for the same things or overlapping. So it's probably good to define it a little bit and then also leave it open because realizing everybody has a little different experience, a little different take on it. The way I define it is it's where our waking and dreaming minds unite. So you can let that settle in for a second. When it happens in dreams, in other words, our waking mind, to some degree, maybe our memory, maybe our will, maybe not also, maybe our discrimination of sort of intellect joins us in the dream state, fast asleep. That's the official lucid dreaming. But I also say when our dreamy self, intuitive, magical side can kind of tune in across distance in sort of a sigh or maybe a psychic kind of way. When that joins us in waking life, and for practical reasons, I usually call that lucid living. So I'm getting an interesting flash.
Can you say that again? Lucid, what do you call it?
Lucid living. So
okay.
let's say, just think of it like two friends. There was an interesting movie kind of like this many years ago, Lady Hawk. I don't know if you saw that. But where this man and woman never quite met. She would cross and become, I think, an eagle or something like that during the day. And he would cross and become a wolf during the night. And they never really met. Sort of like that with our waking and dreaming minds. We fall asleep, go to bed, and most of the time, for most people, we actually don't remember that we have a waking life and we're off doing dreams. And sometimes we remember other dreams during our dreams. Have you ever had that?
Mm-hmm.
So there is like a continuity and a recall in that state, in that world, let's say. And then we come back from that world. And sometimes we remember a little bit dreams and sometimes not. So there's kind of a separation. And in this case, lucidity, as I'm kind of more generally defining it than maybe science would, it's the combining, the uniting, the bridging of these two aspects of ourself. When it happens in dreams, lucid dreaming. When it happens here in 3D physical reality, lucid living.
And how did you start lucid dreaming?
Yeah,
I
well-
assume that happened first and then lucid living happened. I don't know.
Yeah, well, my framework for lucid living came afterwards. I probably was sort of running into lots of synchronicities and tuning into things a little intuitively before, but later I could name and describe and explain it. So I guess the very first lucid dream I mentioned was with my little dog. Little Roofy came in a dream and I said, wait a minute, he passed on. How's that possible? And then I kind of said, whoa, the only way that could happen is if I'm dreaming, because he's alive here in front of me. And I kind of did what I encourage, a little slipping in a little technique for the viewers here. What I encourage everybody to do, have a way to check if you're awake or dreaming, because I can tell you up until then, and even after I realized, wow, this must be a dream using my logic, it still felt very real. It was in my childhood home basement. The only thing being a little unusual maybe is that it was the childhood home and not my current home. But still, everything looked vivid, real, believable. But I did a quick state check, a state test. You can try it now. It looks silly, I guess, but check out your hands. And maybe the viewers will do this. And if they have 10 fingers and the fingers don't become all wavy and odd, or have Pac-Man running up your arm or something strange, you can be fairly sure that you're in waking state. And perhaps it seems a bit crazy. Of course, there's always 10 fingers and 2 hands, and, but I can tell you in dreams, they're not, except that you kind of have the expectation or maybe the belief that they're going to be just normal like they normally see, and then they're wavy or there's no hands. Hey, wait a minute, I had hands yesterday. And that's a way to check our state. There's other ways, but that's a nice, pretty simple one. And the hands are usually there. We usually have a body. So that's a good way to check. So I did that. And then I actually floated up the staircase with my little dog, holding him in his arms, in my arms, and kind of lovingly caressing him because he had just recently passed. So I guess that was my first breakthrough. And I actually floated through the door of the basement, which you're allowed to do in dreamland. You can't do that in waking life. At least I don't know how. So some interesting things. And I guess that kind of opened the whole watershed and sparked now, I don't know, a couple thousand lucid dreams and other experiences. I will just mention for language here, some people call related, maybe overlapping or similar experiences, sometimes called astral travel, or a physicist might say non-local consciousness, or out-of-body experience, or I've heard lots of other, true dreaming, and there's dreaming in italics like Carlos Castaneda. So there's different ways of describing it, but let's just say something where you're a lot more present in, let's say, a deeper state than normal. And we could have lucid meditations, even lucid daydreams. So just think of it as a little more open than maybe I first described it.
And can you control them then? If you're
Absolutely. That's what I say about the mind. Maybe they're partial or not. I don't really love the word control, just because sometimes that kind of brings willing around, manipulating, and maybe bringing a little bit of our waking paradigm into this pretty beautiful landscape of our subconscious. And maybe there's a collective unconscious, like Jung said, where we can meet other people, which I've proven as true. But we kind of want to proceed with respect, honor, certainly playfulness and exploration. So I usually say guiding the dream. If we remember, if we have our memory, then we can sometimes do an experiment, fly through a door, through a wall, or just fly. That's a great one. Have you ever had flying dreams, either of you?
Yes, but the thing is, I would love to, like with lucid dreaming, I always think you can get in there and control it. So I would like to do that and have more flying dreams.
Okay, great. Well, I use the word guide. If you prefer control, no problem. But I would encourage the most important thing to control, this kind of moves into full lucid living, whatever state you're in, dreaming, waking, or other, is the most important thing we can always kind of, once we're aware that we have the choice, become conscious or become lucid about, is our choice of response to any scenario. So if you mean control our response, that's great. Oh, lightness, freedom, curiosity, or not reacting, or not being in fear, or whatever else. That's true lucidity. As for manipulating the outer world, yeah, that's definitely possible in dreams more than waking. With law of attraction, maybe that's possible in waking life. had lots of experiences, but a little less immediate, usually less trustworthy. We can always, once we're aware, once we're lucid, we can always change our response. And that becomes very valuable. I can give some examples if you want, but just think of that as the best thing to control at the start. And then later, yeah, turn like the Tibetans say, big things or big people into small ones, and change the color of stuff, and learn that we do have, influence over the world.
So yeah, I mean, and also I'm curious, how did the pandemic affect your dreams and possibly other people that you know of, like during the pandemic, or did that change people's dreams or yours?
Yeah, well, both. I would say I certainly saw statistically, some research statistics showed that people were remembering a lot more dreams. I heard, and is that true for you during, let's say, the early stages, maybe not more recently, but the early stage pandemics, do you remember having clearer or more vivid or more dreams? It's a while ago now, a couple of years, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I remember a lot of my dreams if I try. I mean, anyway. So, but I do think you're
Okay.
right. I think that there was so much sort of general angst and drama and fear. So yeah, I think there was a lot being worked out in the dream world
Yeah,
for me.
very true. So you have one
yeah.
hint there that dreams do address our emotions that we don't always have presence for. One thing that I noticed, well, certainly we saw the big boost in recall for many people, is my guess about it, because I heard various theories, is actually just that people had a little more time to relax, certainly at the start, or sleep in, they didn't have to go to work, or at least they could work from home and not get up quite so early. And then maybe not so interactive with people, a little more homework, home office, so a little more chance for introspection. My guess is that's where some of the recall came from. And who knows what else. There was certainly interesting themes. I don't know if you have noticed this, but there's universal themes that come in dream, not always exactly the same setting, but sometimes similar symbols or universal themes. And one of them during the pandemic, which was a shifted version of one of the more common ones that it happens at other times, was people were getting caught without their mask on. Did you have that dream?
I
Oh my
did.
goodness, I forgot. Okay, you did,
Yes,
huh, Andrea?
sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of a standard, oh no, where's my concern? Or a radio announcer or a program host might be, oh no, dead air, or where's my notes? Or the more common one is I'm late for an exam in high school, or unprepared. A lot of viewers who can relate to that one. So variations on a theme, but unprepared, unready, and kind of anxious. And a slight variation, and sort of connected with the mask dream anyways, during the pandemic, is some people, about a third of people, statistics show, actually dream that they're somewhat scantily dressed or entirely nude in public. We won't get X-rated here, but have you ever had a dream that, let's say, you're undressed or somewhat undressed in public? Usually
Yeah,
a
it
sign.
usually has to do with that school thing. I think usually when I've been undressed, I've been in the high school, going to take the
Okay.
test. I also don't have, it's a bad.
The feeling's not so great, huh?
Not so great. It's
Performers,
not like,
it's always-
oh, here I am, in a nudist high school. No, it's not like that. It's more like,
Yeah.
uh-oh.
Well, Andrea sort of nailed it there too, performer anxiety. So actors sometimes get that, radio hosts, I guess anybody in a play, or maybe hosts of any type. As a speaker, I sometimes get it, but I'm pretty awake to these patterns. So as soon as I get it, I do the little bit more than just addressing my feelings about it, which is good, more present with maybe my anxiety, although I don't usually get too anxious now. But addressing the fact, if I'm late for the exam or late for the interview or whatever, then address that. Probably it'd be good to prepare a little more, or finish the paper, or whatever it is that the scenario was about, because it's not just sort of an emotional feedback, it's also a bit of a warning often. Prepare for the exam. There's an upcoming deadline, probably not necessarily an exam, but maybe a work meeting or a presentation or something. So it's good to prepare and take it as advice or guidance. And it does link a little bit with the nude in public, but they're slightly separate. The nude in public is a little bit more, hey, wow, I'm embarrassed. Probably, and you tell me, because I've seen it a lot. I don't need to be right here, but I've seen it a lot, that when you have that kind of scantily dressed, have you ever noticed that the other people don't seem to mind or notice, the other dream characters, which is kind of unusual. In waking life, they probably would. In dreams, it's kind of showing us, okay, there's something I'm uncomfortable, uneasy, feeling exposed, literally. about vulnerable, and the other people don't seem to mind. So maybe a message, hey, don't be so self-conscious. Have a little more self-trust, self-love. Don't worry about it.
So you believe obviously in listening to your dreams a lot. Have you ever had any like, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, premonition dreams, warning dreams that have.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And I bet you a ton of viewers, if we go statistically, are actually 2 out of 3 viewers. 1 out of 3 will raise their hand right away, and 2 out of 3 will say, yes, I've dreamt of something that later felt like it came true. And something kind of unique, you know, not the dog came home, which was probably going to happen, but something pretty specific. A lot of people actually pre-dreamt the September 11th attacks or some of these big tsunami or news events. Some people, including me, pre-dreamt aspects of the pandemic and things like that. So I think of it because people go, oh my God, it's the worst thing. You know, I'm so guilty. I caused this accident, you know, a car accident. Let's say they dreamt. No, dreams don't come like that. Think of it as like maybe an extra sensory perception or some kind of inner drone. Like you can have an eyeball or perspective somewhere far away from your normal perspective here in your face. Sometimes at a distance, so that's called clairvoyance. Sometimes you can tune into other people's thoughts, telepathy. Sometimes you can tune in across time, which we call premonition, or sometimes tuning into strong historical past we would have no way of knowing about. And then things that can be verified later and things that are pretty small probability of just randomly happening. So after a while, people get a trust. And for me, it's not a question of if, it's just a question of how can I benefit from it. So I encourage people, don't get too freaked out. Sometimes the first one comes to give you a little shake up and say, okay, this event might have been preventable. And then later we kind of tune into, okay, if I got a warning, maybe I should act on it. Maybe this can become a gift from my family, friends, myself. Guide, protect. Mothers often dream for their kids. Sometimes bosses or CEOs dream for their employees. And we often dream for ourselves and close friends. So I could say almost all the time I've had that. I'd say probably not less than 3 to 4 a week. And often when I have a good recall, 1 or 2 a day where I'm tuning into something. And the big golden question that a lot of people will ask right away is, okay, well, how do you know? And I usually say it's not always as important to know. It's ask, what does it want? So people say, well, what does my dream mean? Or well, how do I know? Or that kind of thing. I say, well, what does the dream want? If it's not expensive, it doesn't cost time, if it doesn't risk a relationship, just act on something anyway. I dream of oranges, let's say, just have some oranges that day or pick some up at the store. And then you'll see that worst case scenario, you got a little bit more vitamin C. It's not the end of the world. If it's something that's a little bit more questionable, risky, you know, I'm going to tell a friend about maybe a potential car accident, then you judge a little wiser. Maybe this was symbolic, maybe it's not literal. But if they're trustworthy and they know that sometimes you tune in, it might be good. I've actually had people avoid serious car accidents by telling them ahead of time about it. So it can tune into valuable things for ourselves and others. So a gift. That's what I wanted to really get there for you and for the viewers too. Don't get freaked out. Just think of it over time, not right away, as a gift you can grow, a type of perception.
So on that gift idea, and something that Elizabeth and I wanted to talk about with you, is how you have helped people or how encouraged people to use their dreams for their creativity life, for their creative life.
Yeah.
Sounds like you've done a lot of that.
Well, dreams and creativity are kind of the same source spring. I would say creativity. Oh, and you can see Elizabeth there pointing to my book, all about that. There's a little segue. Thanks, Elizabeth. I'll talk about them in a sec, but just they're a source spring from which creativity arises, you know, new ideas, fresh ideas. In fact, we even use that language in waking life. Hey, I dreamt this up. Or, wow, I have this dream. I really wish I could become a, I don't know, astronaut or whatever. So we use the language that says something in the future that's hopefully going to come true. And so they're not too unlinked from how we normally talk and think. One of the ways that happens is by spontaneous creativity, and we tune into things. But other times it's just by more chosen, you know, as you guys hear fiction authors, you'll maybe dream. Have you ever dreamt of characters or storylines or titles or anything like that?
Yeah, I've had whole dreams of well, sometimes I've had dreams of like books that go on for centuries that, you know, I can't write, but or I'll have dreams where I'm being cast as somebody else. I mean, but I have had stories that I've turned into, I mean, dreams I've turned into stories that are published that I mean, they're
Yeah, great.
pretty, they're just stories too, that you wouldn't read it and think, oh, she dreamed this.
No, you don't have to necessarily name the fact. Once in a while, it happens in the story that they will say, if you know Richard Wagner's Meister Singers, it's a little bit from the past, 1800s, but a great opera. He would actually describe the whole process of how it works to dream music ahead of time, write it, compose it, sing it in an opera. So sometimes, but most of the time it's just used and we don't know. For example, did you know that Google, the search engine many people use almost every day, actually was directly inspired by, seeded by a dream? There you go. That's not a bad dream. I think it's $1.7 trillion now. So I guess some of our viewers here probably wouldn't mind that kind of dream. Don't forget, it's lots of women and men hours later that the whole, I guess, creation of what Google was. But the very first seed came to Larry Page, CEO at the time, how to make a better search engine. And he followed it and sort of linking from other pages, counting the links and things like this, backlinks. Some of the search people would know about that. And then later grew. And so many things. That's one example from, I guess, business. But I put together somewhere around 200 stories of some very well-known artists who actually dreamt many of their biggest hits. Probably now, because I have a bunch of stories that are going to be in a later edition, I'd say 30 plus Grammys directly from dreams, like directly. Other ones, of course, many more that are untraceable, or that they were indirect. You know, they dreamt something about the album, and then the album, some of the songs won a Grammy. Example is Sir McCartney actually dreamt yesterday. The original words he woke up with was scrambled eggs. Oh, my baby, how I love your legs. Forgive my singing voice there, Paul. But he kind of thought it was funny, played it on the piano early in the morning at Jane Asher, his girlfriend's apartment. Said, wow, catchy. I'm pretty sure I nicked it, though. And he checked with the Beatles and George Harrison and said, I guess George Martin, their manager, have you guys heard this? Because I think I nicked this one. They said, no, but you're going to have to change the lyrics. Oh, yesterday. Okay. So later, after quite a while, he owned it and got the title, I think from a dream also. That's more question mark. But Let It Be, one of their biggest hits, you know, Mother Mary Came to Me from the song Let It Be. That's actually his mother, Mary, who came in a dream and said, Paul, let it be. At the time, the Beatles were having a lot of trials and tribulations and sort of breaking up there. So, and a few other important dreams by Paul. Sting actually dreamt Every Breath You Take. So #1 hit song for many weeks, best song Grammy of the year. And there's a number of best song Grammys. Actually, the first ever best song Grammy. Trivia question for viewers and for you guys. You know what the first ever Grammy was?
No.
Okay, a little trivia show here.
Okay.
Volare. Oh, vola. So an Italian duo, which is interesting. The first ever sort of American award was won by two Italians who sort of dreamt with a little bit of help from Chianti wine, but actually dreamt up the whole flying in the blue, you know, El Pinto de Blue. So that's pretty interesting. And then many others. So just think about very practical things. Sometimes career, life and death. I don't want to freak you out here. And this is a little bit rare. So viewers don't have to have this kind of dream tomorrow, but John Lennon actually twice pre-dreamt quite clearly, sort of premonitions, his murder. In front of Dakota, and very specific dreams, you know, chubby stranger wearing round spectacles in front of the Dakota, specific things. And he was pretty nervous about it, but unfortunately the event happened a year after the dream. So a little bit tougher to track, I guess. But think about warning dreams that kind of guide us. And there's a whole chapter on those type of dreams in the book.
Oh.
And I was remembering too, I mean, another creative process, a weird one, but the Terminator, he dreamt that creature in a dream and then made an entire series of movies after that. I'm sure nightmare, right?
Yeah, well, maybe I might see about what we can splice in a little bit. I had the good fortune of meeting James Cameron following my dreams. I had a dream that I kind of just woke up out of nowhere. I wasn't really trying, but I woke up and I said, oh, green carpet, Los Angeles, James Cameron interview. Huh. First, I went symbolic and kind of said, hey, maybe I'm getting in touch with my big producer because Avatar had just come out, you know, his big film there that I think at the time was #1 in the world, most grossing at the box office anyway. And sort of kind of went symbolic. But then just in case, little technique slipped in here, I just Googled green carpet. and then I guess James Cameron, because I'd never heard of a green carpet. I don't know if you guys had. I heard of red carpet. And there was 2 days after my dream, or the next day, I think, or yeah, 2 days after. But that day, I ended up, I saw that there was James Cameron on a green carpet for Earth Day in Los Angeles. So I guess I dreamt on April 20th. And I was like, whoa, this isn't just like a fun symbolic dream. This might be an action item, except I didn't wake up. I don't know if you've ever woken up with money in your hand, but I didn't. So I took a little leap of faith and ended up going, okay, plane ticket at the time from Montreal, $600-700. And I didn't know how it was going to work, but just said, that'll be a good story. And what's the worst thing? I can enjoy some California sun, which is, I've lived quite a bit. And there it worked out. Magic. One thing led to another. I interviewed him, and eventually that led to another interview where he shared about Terminator. Actually did come from a nightmare, upsetting dream, and a big breakthrough movie for him. And then later, actually 2 dreams inspired Avatar. And he included all those dreams for Terminator and the 2 for Avatar on the movie poster. He's sharp. And on the radio interview where I spoke to him more about it, he said, yeah, wow, these were powerful. One of the dreams was my mom. She dreamt of tall blue warrior people in kind of an alien landscape. And I thought, that's cool. He started writing like a short story, little hint for you guys, maybe short story idea from dreams. And then later, because he's an artist, he pasteled another dream that he had of these bioluminescent forests and glowing river and animals and things. He thought, that's cool. That'll have to come into a movie later. And maybe 20 years later after the dream, he ended up creating Avatar. And I think a lot of people kind of got like tweaked or interested, intrigued by the bioluminescence, because I saw many movies after that. BFG and Life of Pi, and many others included all the bioluminescence. So from a dream, there you have it. Pretty practical dreaming, right?
Yeah. And do you have any, like, is there a way you can control these dreams, or do you just give yourself over? Because I always thought, and perhaps I'm wrong, that with lucid dreaming, you woke up in a dream, realized you were dreaming, and then were able to, change it. Like if you're in a bad dream, you're able to change it so it's not a horrible dream, or maybe you're just able to fly, or maybe you go in there. I know Robert Louis Stevenson,
yeah, right,
got most of his stories and characters, and he would go to sleep saying the brownies are going to come and give me these ideas.
Yeah, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Sure. Of which we have lots of, like even Moon Knight, which I think is Marvel's one of their latest. It's almost the same story, right? Sort of split personality.
Yeah.
So these kind of themes get returned and recurred, and dreams bring them up, I imagine, because they really speak to our psyche. So he was one. There's actually a whole bunch of authors. You especially might be interested in another book by one of my colleagues, Naomi Epple. Was a very interesting woman. Had the good chance to meet and speak with her, because I kind of did the dreams behind the music and she did writer's dreaming. So you can check out Maya Angelou. Stephen King actually dreamt plots for his grand horror movies, and many others. Sophie's Choice, big award-winning book, came from a dream, and many others. So it's natural for creativity. And my guess, and I sort of describe this in the book there, Dreams Behind the Music. People can check it out also at the website, dreamsbehindthemusic.com. I think maybe there's a link in the chat or below or something.
There's a link below, yeah.
And they can see that a lot of these authors were inspired. In fact, Richard Bach, I don't know if you ever remember Jonathan Siegel.
He was in my dad's writers group.
Oh, wow, cool.
My dad wrote a book parody called Ludwig von Wolfgang Vulture, about a vulture who learns how to read. It was the answer. He wanted to go on tour with Richard Bach, but Richard Bach was mad at him.
Oh, okay.
After the vulture book.
Really?
Yeah. He didn't find it as amusing.
It wasn't his fit. Oh, that's unfortunate. That's kind of a cool story, though. In fact, I did just meet the real estate agent who sold his house, which is interesting, when I was in Maui. But I do know that because I interviewed him and followed and read many of his books. And actually, there's another little segue there. I actually got the idea to first start exploring lucid dreaming from one of his books, The Bridge Across Forever, sort of a romance where he meets his partner, because they decided in sleep, in dreams, to actually meet above the bed, whatever meet means, but somehow out of body or whatever, At the time, they didn't really have all this lucid dreaming language or out of body or non-local consciousness. He just said, hey, let's meet above the bed once we're in dreams. And they did, and I said, that's cool. So I tried that and had a good, I guess that was actually officially my very first lucid dream, but I just ended up awakening up in a dream, but the dream went black and kind of went poof down to nothingness. And I said, oh, what do I do now? I don't know. I didn't know have any, my training wheels were still fully on. So I just decided to wake up. But later I kind of learned, oh, you can actually sit in the space between dreams, and you can do lots of things like bring in a new dream and enter into it. And lots of other skills come from there. But to answer your question, I guess one of the things is just kind of realize it's possible. A lot of people haven't either named it, but they're doing it. A lot of kids do it spontaneously. Oh, when you're able to guide your dream or bring your friend there and choose things. Yeah. Oh, well, we call that lucid dreaming. And here's some other things you can do. And here's some kind of benefits you could bring for yourself and others, creative ideas or healing dreams or lots of things. So just naturally knowing that it occurs for some people. In fact, a lot of people have had it. Maybe you've had this and they say, oh, I'd never had a lucid dream, but they've had it at the end of usually towards the end of a nightmare. You ever had that where, oh my God, I'm falling. I got to wake up and get out. And they sort of choose to wake themselves up, or it's a chase scene or something like that. Well, that's officially lucid because you chose something. It probably just wasn't the wisest choice because, hey, if you're safe in a dream, why run away? Why go to waking state? Or if you're falling, hey, try flying right into and through the earth and see how that is, because I've tried that and it's pretty cool. Or, if somebody's chasing you, face your pursuer. Or do we have time for an interesting story about that? Or how's our timing going?
Yeah, give us an interesting story. That'll be the.
Okay. And it's empowering too. I think it might help people if anybody's out there experiencing nightmares, because chase dreams, actually 4 out of 5 people have that one. It's a pretty common one. And some people like 2 or 3 times a week. It's not pleasant. It disrupts their work, their life. So hopefully this can serve them a little bit. And there's lots of techniques. We can send a link or put the link below, I guess. For a whole bunch of free techniques that I put out there since I worked at Stanford Research all about lucid dreaming. I helped to bring it to the public. But those techniques I put out are available free for anybody. And one of them is just kind of have an intention before you fall asleep. Hey, it's natural and easy to remember I'm, in a dream and wake up during the dream, especially if we can set a cue, something that we know is probably we're going to dream about. So one of the people I worked with, Mimi, she said, yeah, I have that recurring nightmare, always chase. It's terrible, ruins my day. And I'm kind of sleepy at the office and upset and stressed when I wake up because I didn't sleep much. And even when I did sleep, it was unpleasant. I said, okay, well, maybe set an intention. And you have a special thing because you know that you're going to have chase dreams, or they're pretty common. She said twice a week or so. I said, just set your intention, lock it, like what I used to call a little memory bomb. Hey, intention, visualization. Whenever I'm being chased, pursuer, oh, I'm going to remember, look at my hands, ask, hey, am I dreaming? Hey, would I like to try a different ending to the chase dream instead of just waking up, running away? And she said, okay, I'll try it. And a week later, when I saw her, she kind of ran up to me and grabbed my jacket and said, hey, it worked. I said, whoa, slow down. And I had forgotten. I think she said, oh, yes, the chase dream. Oh, I said, what happened? She said, well, there I was being chased again. And this time it was a little different. It was in a car, a pursuit. So I didn't really remember a car scene. So I hadn't gone lucid yet. But then I hopped out of the car running on foot, and that little technique worked. I remembered, oh my gosh, this is that same scene. Maybe I'm dreaming. I did a quick hand glance at my hand, but I just kind of knew. She said it was just all of a sudden so much emotion, recognition, aha. She said the hands, I think, had a few extra fingers, but I whirled around and there was this guy, he'd been chasing me first in the car. I saw him in the rearview mirror, and now he's running after me. And I sort of held my courage and held my ground a little bit and said, this is my dream and you can't hurt me. And for the first time, I actually saw his face, and he had a friendly, loving face, which was weird. And he said to me, hurt you? Hurt you? No. I've been running after you this whole time just to tell you, well, I love you. And she said, what? And he said, yes, well, you've been running, so I've been chasing you, but I love you. She said, oh my God. And, a little bit of discussion, but he kind of took her hands and merged into her, the perfect psychological integration symbolism, kind of merged into her body. And she woke up. She said, first of all, I wasn't all freaked out and waking with a gasp, nightmare. I woke up like super energized, electricity over my body. So that was good and new. Then I noticed that I was better rested. I rested the rest of the night. And at work, I wasn't so tired. And then later this week, she said to me, because it was about a week after, I guess she had it, I noticed I was standing my ground a little more. So maybe I got an emotional lesson there, a little more assertive. I was nervous about asking my boss for a raise. So I thought, well, I didn't do it for about 3 months now. But then today I just said, wow, maybe I can stand my ground and respectfully say, hey, I think it might be valuable if we could look at this. And he gave it to me. So she had a double celebration. But
Wow.
the life lesson I like. So she kind of got something, and she said, I met her 2 years later just to check, and many other students and clients, because I have both classes and private clients, have said, yes, I never had the nightmare again, ever. In other
Wow.
words, you kind of get the lesson. You don't have to repeat that school class because you passed.
Wow.
That
That's
is, that is wonderful. That's really an
Important
interesting.
stuff for our life. When you knock at death's door, which I don't want to be macabre and we don't want to rush it, of course. But when we get there, that's a pretty nice jewel to have in your crown, or let's say a little kind of on your little bio or your resume. Yeah, mastered these life lessons, the big reasons I came to Earth. Here we do, we notched off all the stuff. Probably don't get to take with me, even my body, don't get to take it. But life lessons, the love I found, some of these rare few things, yeah, you get to take those. So let's get on it, everybody. Get lucid.
All
Oh,
right,
thank
get
you.
lucid. That's
So
beautiful.
cool.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us. It's been
Yeah.
enlightening and a pleasure, and I look forward to grilling you some more about other techniques.
I like being
But
grilled here, especially during barbecue season.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, we've got some sauce for the next show, and
Okay,
taste
good.
you up with it. But we always do end our segments with the best thing we learned this week. And I usually start because I just do. Now I'm cheating a little bit because I didn't learn it this week. Okay, this is about 3 weeks old, but I forgot to mention it. And our marvelous director, Maria Korloff, just had brought it up a couple of shows ago. And I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't mention it, which is, and there's been a lot in the BBC about this. Scientists have discovered they took the skin cells of a 53-year-old woman and they found out how to turn them back into where they function like a 23-year-old's cells. In other words, they stay out partying all night. They make bad decisions about men. They get drunk. These cells just, but no, seriously aside, they start acting like 23-year-old cells. And this is the first time this has ever worked. Usually you can take a stem cell back all the way to stem cell, but this stays a skin cell. It gives it the fountain of youth. And they were saying they're going to try and start doing this with different organs so that people, maybe you don't need an organ transplant. Maybe you can just go back. I say, forget about the organs. Just give me back 23-year-old skin and I'll be happy.
Right.
I don't care about my organs. But so that's the best thing I learned this
Yeah, I
week.
remember reading that. And I was surprised that they went to better organs because, of course, all of us other people were like, oh,
All of us are like, oh my God, 23-year-old skin, great. Who cares about? Yeah.
Well, there'll be some pretty major commercial implications for that discovery.
absolutely.
Oh no, well the
Wow.
whole, yeah.
That's like multi-billion-dollar idea right
Billions,
there,
yeah, across the
if
board.
not more.
So that's the best thing. Oh, can I add one more? I'll say.
All right.
I'll say, but
Well,
no,
you can
I'll
do
say.
one for me. You can do one for me. No, I'm going to do mine. You can do one for me next time because I don't have a very good one. Because I
Okay.
was on vacation and my brain was on vacation brain and I just didn't really think about much. But I did learn because I was in wine country and I thought this was kind of cool. One of the wineries had it up in their window that during Prohibition, grape farmers made semi-solid bricks of grape concentrate they called them wine bricks, and it had a warning on it that said, do not place in a gallon of water in a jug in the cupboard for 20 days or it will turn to wine. I thought that was a great way
A
around
warning.
Prohibition.
That is
Warning.
great.
Yeah.
Do not,
I was like,
yeah.
I've never heard of that. So I thought that was
Warning.
cool.
No,
It
I
is
didn't either.
prohibited to put this in water.
It's prohibited. Do not do it.
Do
It'll
not.
be wine. Yeah, I love that. So
That's really funny, but I didn't know you could do that. Like
me
make a
either.
brick.
Me
Well,
either.
I
I'm
guess
sure it
these
was
20 days helps it
ferment.
ferment.
Yeah,
Interesting.
ferment, but I'm sure it was delicious. Just saying.
Wow. Wine hackers unite.
Right.
Yay. Okay.
So
I
Right.
learned a pretty cool one. Am I allowed to chime in?
Yes,
Yeah,
you.
no, it's your
please.
turn, yeah.
Just yesterday, and probably having worked with video and film before, just yesterday I started really learn and master a chroma key, which maybe you guys, probably lots of the viewers know about, but where you can sort of change out your background with a blue screen or a green screen and make it transparent and sort of have all kinds of special effects add into your movie or your video.
Yeah, very cool. There's some amazing technology for all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So-
Thank you. So thank you so much. And we want to say
Yes.
thank you to our wonderful director, Maria Korloff, and to our video editor, Sydney Levinson. We couldn't do it
Yes,
without them.
we could not. And please, if you like this video, let us know, like it, comment, and be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification button so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you want to help support our publication, you can go to our Patreon page, and any monies that go there help to pay for the authors. So we pay original fiction. I can't talk. We pay our authors, and no one else makes any money, and that's all that's important.
Authors are important, and I'll just
Authors are
mention,
We pay our authors.
We pay our authors
yay.
for
Well, I'll
their
just,
original content, but you can visit our Patreon page. So thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Craig. Thanks a lot for
you.
coming.
happy nightmares to everybody. I hope.
Thank you.
Thanks.